Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for today we're going to do a platform pop-up card using some Lawn Fawn products, and I have a couple of the main base pieces, 3 grass, 3 T sections, 4 squares, 2 rectangles and 1 back piece, as well as some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, shaded lilac, distressing, stormy sky and twisted citron and mowed lawn for my distressings that I'm going to use. So to start with, I want to ink up some of these pieces. This is just box standard cardstock, so this isn't specialty cardstock or anything like that. And I'm going to start off by inking my grassy pieces in some twisted citron and then add some mowed lawn for some depth and dimension. And I'm just using a little blender brush that I just got off Amazon. They're all over the place now, so to be honest, I've got some that I started off with that were just from like makeup brushes, blending brushes. That's probably where the inspiration initially came from, but now they're everywhere, and you can just search for craft blending brushes and you'll find them just about everywhere. So I have blended up those 3 in the twisted citron, and now I'm going to take the mowed lawn distressing and just add a bit to the edges of those pieces, again just to give some dimension and some depth to the colour. You don't have to do this, and you could just use some green cardstock and then add a slightly darker green than the coloured cardstock to do the same thing. So if you start off with a coloured piece of cardstock, that also helps when it comes to creating full backgrounds and things like that. Just helps with one layer of colour. If you know, just helps to make that background a little easier to blend in and create. But normally I just start from white cardstock or creamy colour cardstock and then go from there. So for my stormy sky, I was going to grab some cloud stencil borders and totally forgot. so I am just blending on some stormy sky, and in the end this works out perfect because I actually stamped some clouds from the stamp set. I actually stamped those out anyway, so it works out fine. But it was one of those moments where I just thought, oh, that was what I was actually intending to do. So I'm just creating a very simple blue sky background at this point. For all these little panels that are going to go around the base of the pop-up card, I'm using some shaded lilac just for a bit of extra colour. It's also got that sort of soft tone, pastel-y sort of colour scheme, so it's not overpowering all of the rest of the card. So just get some of that on there. And just round the edges really softly. This is more for decoration. One of those I will show you, one of the longer ones is going to go on the front, which is going to have the sentiment on it, which you'll see later on. And then the other one is, of the longer ones, goes at the back. And you can either write just straight on the back of what will be the sky part, if you want to put your note on there, or your whatever you're going to write to your recipient, or you could use that little block if it's a really quick, just a how's it going kind of message, or a miss you or something like that. You could also stamp another sentiment on there as well, and you could also decorate each of these all the way around if you wanted to do that as well. I chose to keep it real simple. So for the pop-up itself, there are score marks on all of these, so I'm just scoring off all of the score lines and making sure that they are scored nicely. This is kind of thick cardstock, so I needed to make sure that it was that they were scored well, so that when it pops in and out it works nicely. And then there are two tabs. This is basically how it will fold together. There are two tabs, one on the sort of longer piece, and then one on kind of like the mushroom top, if you like. Those two tabs are the only two places that you'll put your adhesive, and I do suggest a strong adhesive. I do have some of this red line tape, which you'll see me faffing with in a minute, and it is super sticky, and it is kind of a pain in the butt, but it works really well for things like boxes and all that kind of stuff. So I do think it's a good one to have in your stash, although the backer of it clings to everything. It's got like ultra static in it for some reason. So on the three tabs, on the three T's, one of them where the score line is, you actually just trim that off because you don't need that score line. Two of them will have the score line, which I'm just folding here, and again just reinforcing with the bone folder so that it doesn't so that it can move really nicely. You only need it on two because only two of them are actually going to stick to the inside of the box to help with the pop-up action. The other one is more for the decorative side of things, and you'll see that in a minute. So for these ones, I'm going to stick my grass on first. Now, the only thing I will say about this is that you need to fiddle and faff with it enough that you know which way your grass is facing. So, and you'll see what I mean when we get to it, because I kind of had to finagle which way around. I actually stuck the little tabs down to make sure that my grass was facing, that all my grass layers were facing the right way. If you don't want to do that, I would then suggest putting all the T's in first and then sticking your grass layer to that afterwards. For me, this was actually easier than trying to stick the grass on afterwards. Just because it just felt easier to stick them on first. But you just got to be aware of which direction they're going to be facing, and make sure they stick on, that they face the right way, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So you stick all three of your grass pieces onto the top part of the T, the sort of skinny bit. And so that's the easy bit. Actually, this pop-up, this interactive card is actually one of the easiest ones to put together. It looks like it's not going to be, but it really, really is. I really love putting this one together. Some of the other ones I have to always think about what I'm doing, and have to remind myself, and sometimes I go back and watch the lawn fawn videos, or the mama elephants, or whoever it is, whichever company it is, because sometimes I do need that reminder. But for the most part, they're pretty simple to put together anyway once you've got it down. But this one is really easy. I mean, super quick and simple to put together. Like I say, only with the grass layer, that once you put that on, you just need to remember which direction your box is going to face, and that way you'll be fine. Like I say, you can always put them on afterwards. Anyway, so on all the tabs, I'm just adding this tape, this lovely red liner tape. So like I say, on the main part, there's only two sections that need that sticky, and this is where I'm just going to first of all put in my first grass. So I pop it in, and this is where I'm just double checking that I'm doing this the right way, because now I've got the grass on there, my brain is like doesn't know what it's doing. So I know which way I want the grass to go, but I'm just trying to make sure that I put it on the right way around. So I'm just reminding myself. So you put the T in through the little slot, then you pull it forward, if you like, and pull the handle of the T, of that bar, towards you as much as you can, folding that very first fold line down, and sticking the tab onto the base of the card. And then you pull off the longer piece of sticky and almost like fold it back on itself. I'll do it again in a second, and hopefully it'll just make sense more watching what I'm doing than trying to explain it. So with this one, I just needed to make sure that I had the grass going the right way. So Again, you've put it in there. This time my sticky I have to tuck that little flap underneath because I need my grass to go the right way. And then I fold it back on itself to stick it down. And it honestly, it looks harder than it is to actually put together. But once you've done it once, it's honestly the easiest one to do, I think. Then for the little one that doesn't have the little, I call it a flap. It's not a flap. It's a terrible thing to say. But the little score-lined piece that we cut off, you now put some tape just on the back, but up to where the T-bar starts. And you're going to line up your grass side to side. You're going to line up the base of the bottom of the grass edge with the score line, and the bottom of the T section with the bottom of the box. Sounds more complicated than it is. Again, it's really quite easy, but basically you're lining that up so that you can see your grass sticking out in the middle of the box. If you didn't want grass in the middle of the box, don't bother with this middle piece. Just use the two main ones. So if you wanted some more space in the middle for something else, you could add, if you're good at making little boxes, you could add a little box in the middle or something like that. And then what you're going to do is on this middle section, you're going to just add more adhesive. This section is what's going to stick the two halves together. So I'm just burnishing that tape on. It's super sticky, so it sticks pretty well, pretty quick. So just be aware of that, but I burnish it on anyway, just to make sure. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take both your boxes now and line them up next to each other, facing the same way. And what we're going to do is take the tape off the side tab, line that up as straight as you can, stick that down. Now you've already taken the sticky off the middle, and you're going to fold it in half and line those two base pieces together. That will stick your box together, and then you're going to do the same with the little flappy bit on the other side. Sorry, I can't help it. Flap works. It's obviously the word that I've got in my head today for it. And that is your pop-up box. So now we're going to put on the back piece, which creates almost like makes it like a little stage, if you like. And there are some cool stamps and dies that you can use with that as an actual stage, which is very cool. But for me, I think it just makes that nice little backdrop to any of your scenes that you create in these. You do not need this back piece. This is actually an add-on that you can buy on top of the main platform pop-up, but you don't need to have that to make your platform pop up, if that makes sense. So this is an add-on, and it's just, again, it's really easy to line that up. I would use very thin tape because you're literally going in just inside that lip of the edge of the pop-up, but that is the base of your pop-up, platform pop-up. That's a lot of P's. So the next thing I'm going to do is add the sentiment on. I've already taken it out of the stamp set. I used the same stamp set for the images and the sentiment, and I just used two different sentiments in there that says fluttering by to say have a happy day. And I thought that's just nice for someone, no matter what the occasion, you know, if you just want to send them something to know, so they know that you're thinking of them, and it's you want them to have a happy day. I mean, who doesn't want that? That's what I thought this made for a good sentiment for this. I also popped that section up. The rest of them, the little blocks, I just stuck them flat onto their like little sections. They kind of like fit in the middle of those where all the folds are around the outer edge. But I just thought the sentiment could pop up, and that would just be another nice little thing. It will still fold very flat, so don't worry about that so much. Even though it's popped up in the front there. And now the best bit is to just decide where you want to put all these little parts and pieces that you've stamped, coloured and cut out. I used my scan and cut enormous amounts, that's not even English, an enormous amount of the time to die cut my images, because it's honestly, even if I've got the dies for some of the older stamp sets that I've got, I still use my scan and cut because it's just so much easier. Oh, my cat gave me a fright. It's still so much easier and quicker for me just to die cut them all that way. But if you have the dies, awesome. If you are good with cutting them out by hand, by all means, have at it. I'm really not. So yeah, so I had already stamped, coloured and cut them out. I also, there's little butterflies in there, so I used pretty much all the images. I just stamped one of each of all the images. I did a couple of clouds, flowers, grass, that kind of thing, because those I think you need extras of, but like the main images I did one of each, including the butterflies. There's about 4 or 5 butterflies in there, and so I just did one of each. But what I did on the back of the butterflies, so that we can make them look like they're flying, I added a bit of acetate to the back of each of them, and I'm going to stick those in, so it will look, and they'll also move because of the acetate that's on there. So although you can see the acetate, it just gives that illusion that they're floating in the air or that they're flying. And I just think that's such a cool thing. It's an old thing to do, like it's been done for years and years and years, but it is such a cool little effect, and very effective, and it's fun to play with, because when you shake the box afterwards, I did this on a spring thing, I think, spring, or was it spring? Yeah, I think it was a spring little box that I did. If you do the same, you know, it's just fun to play with because they kind of move all over the place. So, you know, that's another added bit of fun for someone who gets this card. So just sticking those in. Again, I'm using some of the super strong tape. It's just easier. Wet adhesive is also really good, but you've got to hold it in place. And I think for something like this where it's a bit fiddly, because you've got to get your fingers in there, and like if you're like me and you've got sausage fingers, it doesn't work so well. So having something that takes and grips almost instantly, as long as you aim it right, you'll be fine, and they'll be in the right place. And for the most part, they work. It works really well. I did try glue dots. Me and glue dots do not get on. I'm just going to say that. Yeah, I have some, but we don't like each other very much. So yeah. So we're just going to leave it there. So I'm just showing you here how they sort of move around quite nicely. The other thing to bear in mind is the height. So once that's why I keep closing it and opening it, is to see that none of my elements or my images or the butterflies, whatever it is not going to be above that, because although this won't fit in an A2 size envelope, it is bigger than that. If it's too high, you're not going to get it into whatever the next size envelope is. Like it might interfere with that. You might have to go bigger on the envelope again. So if you're hand delivering, it's not a big deal, but if not, then, and you want to post it, then obviously think of the postage. And also, depending on what you've got higher than the top of the platform, it may or may not, if it's too heavy, it might tip over, depending what it is. I mean, it's card and paper, it probably won't, but just in case. But if you want to mail it in, you know, and not pay too much more for your postage, then I would just stick to making sure that nothing goes above the back of the pop-up. That sort of extra, like I call it a backdrop piece, which is the add-on section. So I know it doesn't look like much from this angle, but you kind of have to look at it straight on to be able to see where elements are. And I will show you this in a couple minutes to show you properly how it lies flat, and how in slow motion, and how, or real time I should say, how it's, you know, all those little pieces, by looking at it in different angles while you're adding those pieces in, you will get them in the right place, and you'll, instead of them all being sort of lined up one behind each other sort of thing, so you get that nice placement of all those pieces. So I will show you that in a second, because I think I'm there. So there it is, guys. So it's just the cutest thing, and I will show you, if you pop it down, that will be how flat it is. So even with that bit of dimension on the front for the sentiment, it's still pretty flat. and then you pop it into place, and it's just this whole little scene, and I love it. It's just the cutest thing. And like I say, very easy to put together. You can write your message on the back of it. And here's where I'm making that move around. So you can see the butterflies. They don't flap, do they? What's with the word flap today? They don't flutter. That's the word. It's even in the sentiment. Hello. Them fluttering in the wind. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, subscribing, liking, and all that. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.